the coronavirus economy series that we're getting started here. And today we're going to talk through, and today's session will be shorter than we have for some of these other sessions we've done. You know, I think this will be 15, 25, maybe 30-minute overview to talk about what's happening, what we're seeing, some trends, some data points, some different things. You may have seen some of these, maybe you haven't, but this will be a really nice opportunity for us to talk through all of this. And please feel free to ask any questions as we're going through. Comments are certainly welcome, and we are thankful that you are here today. So I'm going to share my screen here, and some of you may be familiar with this, but this is a new data point trend that came out. We've talked about some Google Analytics in the past, but this is through Franchise Insights, and I really like this information source. They share lots of really kind of neat, telling data, and I think it gives us a really good idea of some different things that are going on around in franchising and franchise sales and business development. So as you take a look here at the search term for franchise-related search terms over the course of the last year, this is a week-by-week comparison. The blue line here talks about franchise opportunities. So for people searching on Google for franchise opportunities, the red line is franchise for sale, and the yellow or gold line is for people typing in buy a franchise. And I think it's interesting to note. So here we have kind of that mid-February number, and things start sliding down here right until around the 1st of April. And then the 1st of April, as we see with the coronavirus, you know, really kind of kicking in full gear with the pandemic and uncertainty and so on that was going on. And then we see this rising trend back up here with each of these terms. So I think that this is a really interesting affirmation that if you're in the franchise space, you may have seen that leads and lead generation have hopefully been increasing or have been improving. And if you haven't, this is a good indicator to show that leads should start and be coming around here. I want to take a look at this here for business startup terms. And so this is really a really exciting chart that they've highlighted. Again, this is through Google Trends, and this is a report listed on Franchise Insights that just came out. I think this was published, did they put a date on here? June 18th, so this was published yesterday. So this is about as current as it can be. And this is really telling for us in the franchise business, and something for us to be aware of. If you have not taken a look at this, maybe you have, but I think that these are some really telling numbers to look at. So when you look at the blue line here is start a business search terms. The red line is business for sale. And what's pretty interesting, if you look through from 12 months ago, or January of 2019, I should say, is where it starts, up through about January of 2020, you see that it's actually pretty compressed. It's pretty similar in terms of search volume. Certainly some squiggles and ups and downs, but nothing too advanced. Then you look at the first of the year. Look at this spike in January. To me, this is really interesting. Both terms, start a business and business for sale, you see this big spike happen in January, and it continues. It dipped a little bit for business for sale, but start a business is really high. So that interest spiked. And then mid-February, here's the coronavirus pandemic again, it crashes down, and we see that it crashes. What's kind of interesting to me is it crashed, but it's not quite as low. You look at that bar, that 60 bar there, it's not that far below that comparatively to some of the other lows over the trailing roughly 17 or 18 months there. And then back again by April, if you look at by mid-April, the start a business is back to a number that is comparable or higher to almost all of 2019. And now we fast forward through May and into the first part of June here, and look at this spike. it is the peak of the chart here for almost the last 17 or 18 months. So the way Google Trends works is 100 means it's the highest point during that time period you've searched. So that means over the last 17 months here, roughly based on this data, that the searches for start a business are at their peak volumes. That's a big indicator, I think, for all of us in the franchising business, or just for entrepreneurship in general. It means that people are starting to think about, oh my goodness, what happens if I don't get my job? What happens if I've been laid off and that job doesn't come back? You know, these government benefits, you know, they're going to start wearing off here. They're wearing off for businesses. They're going to start wearing off for the individual. I think it's July 31st. Is that right, Yvonne? Yes, she's shaking her head. Okay, so July 31st, they wear off. And so now unemployment benefits go back to normal. And when they go back to normal, what is that person going to do? What if that job isn't there? And for someone who maybe is in a low to middle income range, they may be able to find a job a little easier. And high income earning range, how do you find a job? They might not be hiring back for those positions. Those may take the longest to fulfill. And to refill, I should say, those positions. So you got to be thinking, boy, I might need to start my own business. So now people are searching, start a business. And that to me is a great indicator for where we see franchise sales in the future. We all know in franchising, if you've been in franchising for a while, or if you're new to franchising, that people eventually, they'll say they look for a job, they can't find a job. Then they say, maybe I should start a business. And then they think, oh boy, starting a business, wow, that's hard. It's a lot of risk. I really don't know. Or they'll say, I just don't even know what I want to do. Where do I even start? I don't know what I have a love or a passion for. And so then they start thinking, well, maybe I should buy a franchise. And so to me, this is a great indicator for what we're going to start seeing in the franchise community. I think we're starting to see some of it if we look at this chart back up above here, where we see the trend coming back up for people typing in franchise-related terms for buying franchises, and franchises for sale. And then we look at that start a business. Boy, I think that for me, this jumped in front of what we were planning to do. I saw the data come out yesterday. I thought, boy, we have to talk about this on our webinar. This is a big deal for us in the franchise community. So I think that's a really important thing. I'm going to stop my screen share here for a second. I want to pull up one other chart that was really interesting. I've got to find this here really fast, but I'll pull it up. It's an overview of what the is this it? It shows, yeah, that's one of them. Okay, that's one I'm going to show. And then there's another one I want to show that talks about the foot traffic, retail foot traffic, that I thought was really interesting. Okay, so let's take a look at this here. So we're going to take a look at retail sales and what this chart is showing here for a rebound in retail sales. So I'll share my screen here and show you this. I think this is pretty interesting. Okay, so when we look at this here, this is a chart that's put out. It shows retail sales in the rebound. And so we, off to the left, we have May of 2019, June of 2019, July, August, September, October. And you can kind of see these retail sales numbers. This is just gross retail sales in the millions. So what is that, 520 billion we're looking at in retail sales, just over that for most of 2019 into the first part of 2020. And then in March, you see it really crash down, right? A huge drop here, and then an even bigger drop into April. But what is a really important tell-all sign when we start saying, well, what's going on with other economic indicators? Well, consumer spending is our big driver. So retail sales certainly are important. And we look here May, our numbers popped up higher than what they were in March. And for a lot of March, at least roughly about half of March, we say right until about March 15th, things were looming in parts of the country. Out west, there were some looming things happening, but for most of the country, things really didn't hit hard until around that mid-March time period. So you look back here and look at this trend of where this is spiking up here. So I think that's a really nice indicator for us as you start thinking about, okay, what's happening? Well, retail sales are going on. Retail sales certainly will push into other industries also. And I want to pull up one other thing that I wanted to share. It disappeared on me, so hopefully I can pull this up here. That's not it. Okay, this is another interesting indicator just about unemployment claims. I did want to show this one, but I'll see if I can find this foot traffic because it's really cool. They use cell phone data and poll numbers and so on. So if I find it, I'll show it. If I can't, well, then I don't know what happened to it here. But anyway, as you take a look at this chart, this is showing the unemployment claims. Unemployment claims are still happening, but look at the trend here as we continue to see these go down and down and down. It continues to drop. So you can see what this looks like here. This is the week of, this first orange bar is the week of March 21st. This bar here, this one right before it, is the week of March 14th. So you see 282,000 there, and then 3.3 million, 6.8, 6.5, 5.2, 4.4, 3.8, 3.1, 2.6, 2.4, 2.1, 1.8, 1.56, and now 1.51 basically for the week of June 13th. So again, are things great and amazing like they were prior to the pandemic? No, but are they starting to trend back in that direction? I think that we see some indicators that are pointing to, yes, we're starting to see some of that. And then we can see how this is a nice 4-week average of continuing unemployment claims. So you can see this 4-week average. It gives us a better indicator of what's going on with the trend, where unemployment claims are going just as a whole there. So see the big spike, and now that we're starting to come down, businesses are starting to reopen, they're starting to rehire. So I just think that that's a good overview there. So I guess with that, I'll open it up, see if there are any questions, comments, thoughts, ideas. I can tell you from our clients that we're working with, we're still seeing franchise sales activity happening. If anything, we're seeing the same or increased for many of the brands we're working with. Been speaking to. So any comments, questions, thoughts, and I'm going to try to dig up that other chart I wanted to show you as well.
Tom, are there any general trends you're seeing in the lead generation for franchises?
Yeah, I think that I think just what do you mean by just total numbers coming in? Is that what you're asking?
So maybe like new leads for franchise sales clients.
Yeah, I think within our own network and database and system, lead generation as a whole has remained constant. We have not seen a substantial. In fact, we haven't seen a decrease. We did for maybe a week or 2 weeks, kind of in between, sometime around the first part of April, mid somewhere in that area. But for the most part, lead flow has been the same or increased. And we're looking to qualify some of that lead flow as well to say, well, is the lead flow any better? Is it any different? What's actually happening there? And so we have seen from our initial numbers showing that the quality of candidates coming through today are seem to be on a whole just a better quality candidate. We see candidates moving through the process faster, with better candidates in general. So I don't know if that helps, but just to kind of give you an overview of what we're seeing kind of on the front lines with some of our brands and what some of our clients and the feedback we're getting.
Tom, are you seeing any difference by segment? For instance, one of my curiosities is, how are restaurants ever going to be able to make money if they're paying rent, expecting to have a certain number of clients come through, and now all of a sudden they're at 25 or 50% allowed?
Mm-hmm.
So are people going towards a different segment of franchising rather than food or hospitality, or are they sort of saying it's going to come back and I'm going to invest now for 6 months or a year from now?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and what I've seen is that for the food segment in particular, just from hearing this through brands we're working with and clients, that the food businesses that seem to have or were prepared to have delivery or takeout as part of their standard operating procedures are not seeing a dramatic fall off in terms of opportunities and leads. People are actually seem to be more interested in those because they recognize, again, we can do delivery, we can do pickup, the system is already built for that. I can tell you the brands that I'm definitely seeing struggle are some of the brands that have maybe a very niche product or were not set up for that carry out or delivery method, that struggle. The interest is not there, or it's not as high, or if even if they did have delivery or takeout as part of their method or part of their process, if it's not clearly articulated on their website that they focus on that, or it's not clearly articulated in their the interest is not as high in those brands. We're just not getting the same kind of sizzle or excitement about those food brands. That's a great question. Can everybody hear me okay here?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Okay, just making sure you can still hear me. I wanted to show you one other thing. Let me see if I can pull this up. Any other quick questions for me here? Okay, this is the chart I wanted to show you here. All right, let me pull this up. This is gonna answer your question a little bit better. This is the one I was looking for. All right, I'll share my screen. Karen, this will help address part of it. It'll help give some data points to what I was just talking about. So here we have change in inquiries per franchise type from April to May in terms of interest. So education soared. I mean, it really fell off when the pandemic first hit. Business services increased, sports and rec increased, health and fitness. Look at these percentages: senior and healthcare, computer, internet, and look, here's food and restaurant. almost a 10% increase, over 9% increase there. Child-related, pet services, cleaning and maintenance. So it's really, really interesting to see the jump in some of these. And to me, I think a surprise for probably a lot of people is to see the jump in food and restaurant interest from April to May, and just that short of a time period where, it did fall off pretty heavily, where you can see here on this chart up above, just the overall change in interest. If we go down here, food and restaurant, it dropped 21%, but has picked back up. So it's not quite back to where it was, but it made up a lot of ground in on the interest in that category. Does that help give you some additional insight there? And I would say, if you are in the food business of any kind, being able to, as part of your sales presentation to a franchise candidate, make sure you are clearly articulating to them how you can manage the delivery and pickup aspect of your business. Make sure that's being clearly communicated, because that is that's a concern. I promise you, they're thinking about it. I'm certain they're thinking about it. So just keep that in mind as you're thinking about food. I know we have a few franchise brokers and franchise consultants on with us here, and so I think as you're presenting food, I would make sure that the franchisor is articulating that to the candidates as they are coming through the pipeline. Any other quick questions or comments here while we've got everyone?
So Tom, this is Rich Greer.
Yeah.
Not really a question, more of just kind of a
Great.
Yeah, grazing here. So around January, December 2019, and actually most of the year, with the 3% unemployment rate, what we found was there just wasn't a whole lot of activity. It was plenty of activity, but the true buyers seemed to have vanished because there was no pain, right? There's no reason to really search for a business. And then the pandemic hit us like a lightning bolt. And everybody seemed to put on the brakes, as all your graphs are showing. And I've been talking to several franchisors that I'm very close with the last several months, and I'm kind of getting the same perspective, if you will, that you're showing here, which is, things were bad from a lead standpoint and buyer standpoint, and for good reason. But I've talked to several franchisors just recently saying, man, I've never had so much activity. I've got more people on pipeline I can even work with right now. It's a really good time. And coincidentally, I was in my best practices group. We have a Friday meeting. Karen's part of that. And we were discussing this very issue. What should we do now? Just to kind of summarize it. Because some brokers are just saying, I'm taking a year off. I'm just not going to mess with this. Other people are floundering, and who knows? There's not a crystal ball, but if I was to speculate, and I am, it looks like we're starting to approach that sweet spot again, where there's pain, and there's going to be a lot of buyers. Money's cheap, and labor is pretty easy to get hold of. So we're kind of in a really nice, I think we're entering a really nice sweet spot. For me, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue doing what I've been doing, not wait till the magic moment. You can never, when you buy low and you sell high, you'll never get to the lowest that it is, and you'll never sell at the very highest either. So, I appreciate what you're saying, because you're validating what I've been hearing from other franchisors as well.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and I appreciate you sharing that, Rich, and thank you very much. I think that it's really interesting that because other people in franchising that I've been in around, I'm sure you've been hearing it too. When unemployment is as low as it had been, your biggest competitor in franchise sales becomes the next job promotion, the next job bonus, the next headhunter that reached out to that candidate. I can definitely confirm that 2019 for sure that more franchise sales were lost because of a promotion, or they got the job they were wanting, or they got the raise or the bonus or the whatever, and they said, well, why would I leave? Things are great right now. And so it's hard to leave comfort. And to your point, Rich, you said it so well. There was little to no pain. And so they had no real motivation to do it. And, that lightning bolt has, struck us all. And I think the pain is still there, but the immediate impact of it has dissipated a little bit. It's spread out. It's, not quite as severe. And so now people are saying, boy, look, I can take a test. Even the positive outcome is that, we've been wanting to deliver better quality content to our own clients and to our folks in these kinds of situations. Now, this has been on our to-do list for 2 years, and, it only took a pandemic to get here, but hey, here we are, and I'm glad we're here, and we're going to continue doing this. We just launched a podcast, by the way, called Multiply Your Success, to give a weekly dose of maybe some motivation or inspiration to those folks that are growing their business through franchising, or maybe a budding entrepreneur that's considering it. So these are the things that I guess come out of this. And Rich, I think you're wise. I think you're very wise for sticking with it. Taking the year off does not sound like a good idea to me. I think you're wise by sticking with it. And yeah.
Well, that's what my wife says too. She says, "Get your butt back in the office. You're not making me money, watching TV all day long." One other thing that we can't. I don't think there's any way to prove this. It's just something I'm kind of seeing is the people that are in their 50s or even 60s. This is their third layoff, maybe fourth layoff. Mm-hmm. And the guy's in his 30s, this is his first one. So he might be the guy to say, you know what, I'll just wait it out, get another job, and then I'll be set for life. And what the guy in his 50s and 60s said, you know what, I've had it. This is my third. I'm not going to do this anymore. I've got bills to pay, and I want to be able to count on something. And clearly, corporate America, I can't count on. Plus, he's got age discrimination to work with, too. So it's, the boomer age is still our buyers. They're not too old. They can't buy a franchise. Mm-hmm. And many of them, I hear it from them every day. They're just sick of it.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We have, I have good friends here and that are Gen Xers, and they are at that point where, similar exact same conversation, mid to late 40s. And they're saying, tired of the rat race, just tired of the grind. They've been around, worked long enough, and said, I'm just ready to do something for me. And they're at that point where they don't even care necessarily if they make less money, because it's not about the money anymore. It's just about the freedom of having their own lifestyle and choosing to do what they want to do when they want to do it. And so I definitely, I agree with you. I think you're spot on there, Rich. Well, great. Well, any other thoughts, comments, questions from our group here today? Great. Well, thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back this time next week. Oh, Will, you have something?
No, just
okay.
Saying thank you. I appreciate this.
Yeah, no, yeah, thank you. And we always post the replay. So if you miss it or want to catch something again, we usually post those within a few days. It's right on our website, and then we'll send this notification out to you. So thanks again for tuning in here. We really appreciate it.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom, for hosting.
Take care. You got it. Thanks, guys. Take care.